Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cellular Healing TV. This is episode 100. This is a really exciting landmark episode. Made it to 100. Have Dr. Pompa here, and how are you?
Yeah, I want like balloons and lights to flash. I could rock my lights a little bit, woohoo. Remy usually knocks this around. But 100, I mean, who would think, right? Oh, man. We have gained a really amazing, loyal following, through this. And gosh, I guess, Meredith, back in the day, what episode did you start? When Warren and David were like, we have too many things to do, right? It's like, do you remember when you started?
Well, I know it was in the 70s, that kind of like 75-ish or so. You had been visiting Pittsburgh, and we did that healthy smoothie demo. And that was kind of, I think, my first official episode that you and I just did. But I remember, I believe it was episode maybe 34, 32, when I first started with the company and working with you guys and had been experimenting with the ketogenic diet. Yeah. And you and Warren had brought me on, and we did that interview, and that was really fun. I remember it was so impromptu as well, and you guys said, come on, and that was fun.
I think it was then that Warren was like, hey, she was great. I was like, yeah, she was great. So I think then we knew, okay, she's going to evolve into this. It's funny because I think you just kind of forced your way in and were like, took ownership, right? I mean, you just kind of, now you're amazing, right? You couldn't do the show without it. And Meredith, you are the one who books these amazing guests that we have, and keep me on track and even tell me this is the show we need. So I love you for that. Thank you. But we have a great show today. Tell them what it is.
Thank you. Yeah, so glad to be here. And to celebrate our 100th episode, this was your idea, Dr. Pompa. We have the top 10 most downloaded cellular healing TV shows of all time. So really awesome topic for you. It's just going to be a big review of all of the most popular shows that you guys have loved and watched and shared with your friends and family. So awesome topics. Just kind of a great overview today of a lot of amazing topics that have been discussed on the whole history of the show.
I think it's great too, because it's like, we didn't pick them, right? They picked them, right? These are the ones that people love the most. And, when you showed me the list, I was thinking, gosh, it's like, what if there's one there that I really love and want to talk about? I think is more important. I looked at this, I'm like, that's perfect. So somehow you all got it right. I mean, if I had to pick 10 in this order, I'm telling you, it would have been probably this 10 in this order. So, great stuff. These are 10 really important shows. And I think 10 that everybody needs to go back and watch, because, even when I watch past shows and things, I go, oh my gosh, it's like, that's great information. So let's start it out. Give us a go.
I agree. And definitely, yes, encouraging you guys to go rewatch these episodes. They're filled with such amazing content. And I as well gain so much when I rewatch them, because there's so much packed into each one. So, all right, guys. So without further ado, the top 10 most downloaded episodes in the history of cellular healing TV. And at number 10, we have episode 32, which is the ketogenic diet. I believe actually this was my episode. I hadn't really thought about that, but
that's funny.
That's funny. Yep.
Yeah, was it? You did do a great job. You made the top 10, Meredith.
Top 10. Awesome.
Actually, let me ask you. You're always asking me questions. I want to fire it back at you. So you had said we did that show, and that's when you were experimenting and entering into ketosis. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, that's when I first started experimenting with it, and I hadn't known about it until I had met you and started, with the company and working with you guys and learning this information and the research. And as you do, I know we love those N=1 experiments. We love to experiment on ourselves. And of course, I was reading about it, and I had to try it for myself.
Yeah. So going back, I mean, now that's been some long months away now, right? So it's like, what is it done for you? And have you stayed in ketosis the whole time, or have you done some diet variation moving in and out of it?
Definitely diet variation. It was interesting, honestly, to tell you the truth, when I first started with the ketogenic diet. So that wasn't this past summer, but the summer prior to that, I got really into it. And I think, like a lot of things that I do, if I'm in, I'm in. Yeah. And I got really strict with it. And actually, my body fat dropped really, really low. It's like around maybe even down to 7% or something. It was really, really low. I actually got too thin.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience for me, and I did it for a couple months that summer, and I also including a lot of burst training when I was doing it, so that also just heightened the intensity of getting to such a low body fat. But then once you kind of taught me about diet variation and the importance of going in and out of ketosis, then that's what I've done. And I've felt so much better going in and out versus staying in ketosis for a long period of time. I think as a woman, and maybe just me personally, I'm more sensitive to it. So I need that variation. I do cyclical kind of ketogenic dieting where I kind of like to do some carb loading at points, and in the evenings I like to have a meal with more carbs in it. I sleep better, I feel better, my hormones are more regulated. So definitely incorporating the diet variation for me has been really important for ketogenic success.
And I know diet variation is one of the top 5 strategies, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about that. So folks listening, if you don't know what ketosis is, watch that episode, right? And I think we even have other episodes on ketosis. And we even interviewed Dr. Dominic D'Agostino not that many episodes ago, who even brought more value to ketosis. I mean, this guy's training Navy SEALs and Army Rangers and top performance, and with very little sleep, and they were giving these guys medications to adapt. Now they're, with Dominic's help, putting them into ketosis, and their performance and focus is going through the roof. That's the amazing thing about ketosis, and more athletes are realizing that, ketosis, is actually increasing performance. The old days of the high carbohydrate diets for endurance athletes, they're going out the window. Ketosis is, I think, Meredith, I think it's one of the hottest topics right now, don't you?
It's gone mainstream. People are actually talking about it now, and not just in relation to using it to treat epilepsy or brain conditions, but for heightened performance in their overall life and just for better health.
Yeah, I think it's still in the medical field, if you will. There is like ketosis, that's for seizures. And that's, we realize that, now that, no, this is mainstream. I mean, most cultures that ever, through the history of man had great health, they were always in times of ketosis. Not maybe all the time, but in times of ketosis, by the way, which we call diet variation, moving in and out of ketosis. And we'll talk more about diet variation here, down on the list. But yeah, ketosis is hot. I think that, we have used this as a tool for years, just, putting people in and out of this state. And, really, I love it because it downregulates cellular inflammation. I think D'Agostino, and we interviewed Dr. Seyfried, and we talked about, he wrote the book Cancer as a Metabolic Disease, and how he uses states of ketosis for cancer patients and how vital it is. We know now it's not just about seizures. That's what everyone used to think ketosis was about. It's about, what it does for the brain. The cell downregulates ketones, and fat burn clean, whereas glucose burns with a lot more smoke, which drives more inflammation. And an already challenged cell with not the ability to get rid of that byproduct from glucose metabolism, it makes more inflammation because it can't get rid of the junk. It's like, I say, it's like burning logs in your fireplace. You need a damper. But ketones and fat burn so clean at the cellular level, it's like natural gas on your stove. You don't need a damper. You don't even see smoke. So we're able to downregulate inflammation of the cell, the brain. It's such an amazing tool. So that's why it made the top 10. This is a really important subject.
Yeah, it is. Episode 32, go check that out. And there's 2 articles on ketosis as well if you want to know more on drpompa.com. There's a general article on ketosis, and then there's also a follow-up troubleshooting article as well. So check those out if you want more information. All right, next. Number 9 most downloaded episode is episode number 54, sleep and anxiety issues. Not a lot of people suffer with sleep and anxiety issues, so not hard to understand why that made the top 10.
Yeah, I would have guessed it. It's sleep and anxiety, right? It's when you have someone who's neurotoxic, which is, something that we talk so much about and obviously teach doctors, around the country about neurotoxic illness and how to utilize True Cellular Detox. Sleep and anxiety. All of these neurotoxic people have sleep and anxiety issues. It's, it's almost a way to diagnose neurotoxicity, for goodness sakes.
Well, that's a quick question that I have. So if you're suffering from sleep or anxiety, is it you pretty much definitely have a neurotoxicity issue?
Yeah, I think the word definitely strong, but I think that in most cases, there is some type of neurotoxicity involved. Look, I said this, I had massive sleep and anxiety issues. It seems like, one would be the other, both. I would wake up in the middle of the night, panic attacks, massive, feeling of dread. I mean, I had bizarre anxiety. There's worry anxiety, and there's just this anxiety that comes out of nowhere. If you're someone out there that gets this just kind of random anxiety, that is absolutely neurotoxic driven. Now, there's also the people who are neurotoxic don't deal with stress, so that can create anxiety too, right? But what happens is with neurotoxicity is you have, typically the brain is toxic. The pituitary hypothalamus, which controls the thyroid, which controls your adrenal gland. So you get this screwed up hormonal thing going on where you're producing more cortisol at night when you should be trying to sleep. You should be producing less cortisol. You get these cortisol rises where either you can't get to sleep, or in the middle of the night where cortisol will spike up, even adrenaline, because your blood glucose drops so low. So this is tied into cell energy where you can't produce enough energy, and then boom, your body's sending up cortisol and adrenaline just to live and survive. And then therefore you wake up and now you wonder why you can't get back to sleep. Adrenal related, just cellular energy related, that can drive up these cortisol and create anxiety and inability to sleep. It's a hormone problem, most often driven by brain toxicity in the hypothalamus pituitary. The pineal gland sits outside the blood-brain barrier, very vulnerable to heavy metals. So when I always say that we have to get upstream and detox the cell. If you don't fix the cell or detox the cell, you won't get well. Well, I always said more specifically, if you don't detox and fix the brain, you're not going to get well. These heavy metals bioaccumulate in the hypothalamus, pituitary, which run your endocrine system, and the pineal gland, which sits outside the blood-brain barrier, all of which will cause anxiety and sleep problems.
Wow. Huge topic. We also have an article on drpompa.com that you wrote that really details this information as well, and a lot of solutions too. So definitely check that out if you're interested and kind of want some more information. If you're hearing those symptoms and it's resonating with you, definitely check out that article for sure. And
I even gave him some tips on how to use orthostatic blood pressure, as a gauge on kind of how to address the adrenals. But I made a point though in it. I said that's all downstream unless you detox this. That's really why you don't sleep well. That's really why you have anxiety. So very important. So okay.
Yeah. Our number one, getting to the source. Yes. Awesome. So, and that was once again episode 54, sleep and anxiety. Check out the article. All right. Number 8 most downloaded episode was episode number 10. Autoimmune conditions. Now they are rampant these days, and I know so many people are suffering with autoimmune. Don't even know it's autoimmune, a lot of their conditions and these symptoms. What's going on?
Yeah, how many people, you get a lot of the calls, the people that call into the website, right? And how many people you speak to that you're speaking to, they have an autoimmune condition, right? Because they have the bizarre and unexplainable. I think most people have autoimmune, Meredith, and especially people that don't know what's going on or have something weird happening. In the medical world, they love to put tags on things. And if they can put a tag or a name, a condition, give a diagnosis, then there is a medication then that they can justify giving, right? But so many of these autoimmune conditions, they don't know. And so they end up, some of these people end up on psychotropic drugs, cortisol steroids, who knows, because they just don't know. So they're really misdiagnosed and mistreated so much because the testing for autoimmune is in the Stone Ages. And I say that in a great article that I wrote, and probably you edited, is Autoimmune Answer, right? That article. We talk about a 3-legged stool solution, right? It's in cause, right? So how does autoimmune get triggered? Certain genes get turned on. You get the autoimmune disease of your genetic weakness. And by the way, again, we don't have names for a lot of these things, lupus, or, rheumatoid, Crohn's, colitis. These are names that once the symptoms get so bad, we say, that's the name. But really, all autoimmune is the same. It's your own immune system attacking certain tissues and cells. We name it by what tissues they're attacking. So if it's attacking collagen, we call it lupus. Attacking the joint collagen, we call it rheumatoid. But again, how many people have bizarre things going on? Well, we just haven't named it. But it's the same. Certain genes get turned on, and now your body starts attacking cells, driving its own inflammation. Here's the other leg of the stool, though. Certain stressors, physical, chemical, or emotional, turn on those genes. In number 1, when you look at the cellular healing, the 5 R's, that really is what's turning off the genes. It's part of fixing the cell and getting those genes to get turned off as a solution, right? And then we deal with True Cellular Detox to really get rid of the stressor, the chemical stressor that turned them on. Then there's one more leg. A lot of the ancient healing strategies we're going to remind you of today, fasting, intermittent fasting, ketosis, right? These things can also, be a part of the fixing the gut, because the gut and the microbiome there plays into the gene that gets turned on, right? And a leaky gut and a bad microbiome is always part of autoimmune. So that three-legged stool is how it happens. Bad gut, certain toxins, turn on certain genes. So think about that. If one of those isn't there, typically you don't end up with autoimmune. But here's the thing. If one of those isn't addressed, you don't have a solution for autoimmune. Read the article. It's very important.
Yeah. And that's, I think, why autoimmune is so challenging too, because it's not a simple answer. As you really detail in the article, there's a lot of different things that you have to do to get results. It's not just one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the microbiome, we talk a lot about the gut, and that's one of the legs of the stool. Just when there's certain bacteria missing, you don't make T regulatory cells. And those are cells that tell your, literally tell your immune system, to back off. So those cells turn on certain genes that tell your immune system everything's okay. So if you don't have enough of these bacteria, you don't make enough T regulatory cells, and you can't back the immune system off. So again, that's complicated, right? That has to be fixed. That gut has to be fixed. And we use a lot of ancient healing strategies to do that. But if we don't remove the toxins at the cellular level, we're never going to turn off the immune. We're not going to ever change that gene expression where the body's attacking itself. So it's a multi-therapeutic approach of doing all of those things at the same time. But I'll tell you, when you do it, it works. And we've seen that, because the success, with autoimmune has just been remarkable. So.
Yeah, it is. It's a complicated problem, but you do have a complicated but an answer that gets results too. So It is exciting. I've also seen it with so many of the people that we work with, and it's exciting because a lot of the mainstream medicine doesn't have a lot of answers to give to autoimmune. So it's a really exciting topic, and definitely check out that episode and the article as well.
I want to do a future show on the multi-therapeutic approach that we do with so many conditions. And I think for our viewers and listeners, it'll really put everything into context, for them. So we can definitely do that in the future. But okay, all right.
Made the note. All right, great. All right, next, 7th most downloaded episode is episode number 58. And these were the top 5 anti-aging tips. Mm-hmm. And these are also tips that we've incorporated onto the website and kind of broken down into 5 articles as well, which kind of have become your top 5 strategies for really getting to optimal health.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm going to break those down, and then we have kind of some of these other topics within this that we're going to review a little bit later on in the list. But the top 5 anti-aging strategies are number 1, control your blood sugar. Number 2, diet variation. Number 3, intermittent fasting. Number 4, burst training. And number 5, true cellular detox. So we're going to hit up true cellular detox and intermittent fasting are coming up a little bit later on the list. But it'd be great to spend a little bit more time on controlling blood sugar and burst training and diet variation. So why don't we start with controlling blood sugar? Why is that so important for anti-aging?
I think I want to refer them to the episode that we interviewed Dr. Seyfried, Professor Thomas Seyfried, Dr. Seyfried, because he wrote the book called Cancer as a Metabolic Disease. In the episode, we're basically saying, hey, look, cells get disrupted and stressed from typically toxic sources that damage where you make energy in the cell, called the mitochondria. And then the cell adapts. And now it can only use glucose for energy. I had the most fascinating conversation with another scientist, not last night, but the night before. And we were talking about ketosis. And we were talking all about it. And he feels, utilizing ketosis, is a strategy today that literally really ties into most diseases. And I agree, because what does ketosis do? It forces the cell to not use glucose, but it forces the cell to use fat. Him and I both agreed that this is, and same with Dr. Seyfried, he knows Seyfried, he calls him Tom. He says, Tom and I, we have these discussions, and we realize that most people today have trouble utilizing fat for energy. They're stuck as glucose burners, and this creates so many problems that it ages you prematurely. Yes, that's why it made, if you want to age faster than anybody, just keep raising your glucose. In most even healthy people, you go to these conferences, you've been there, they're doing things, they're eating all these healthy foods, but they're still spiking their glucose all day, right? So yes, it ages you, drives cellular inflammation, but according to Seyfried, it also ends up driving cancer and bad cells. If we really look at why people don't feel well, I believe it's because their cells are breaking. I'm making it really simple. They're adapting. They're utilizing just sugar, and they get used to utilizing sugar and not utilizing fat. Sugar burns dirty. Fat burns clean. You see the problem. That drives more inflammation. The cell can't deal with it anymore. It becomes broken. And then yes, it could lead to cancer. Yes, it can lead to chronic fatigue. Yes, it ages you prematurely. It's a big topic.
Huge topic. And there is an article on that on your website as well. So check that out. And we talked a little bit about diet variation, but do you want to share a little bit more on that strategy for anti-aging?
Yeah, I think let's just make it, everybody needs to read the articles that we've written on diet variation. And I talk about it within many articles too, because, first of all, I always say, I believe there's not one diet perfect for everybody. The cellular healing diet is amazing because it gets rid of these number one things that drive inflammation, right? And then oftentimes we'll put people in ketosis for periods of time, but diets can be different for everybody. Some people do better on higher fat, some people do less on high fat. But what we realized, and I discovered this just working with clients all around the world clinically, and training doctors and getting their feedback, that the magic happens when you switch the diet. It's like all of a sudden, people go, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. So when people go, oh, I'm on a vegan diet, I felt so much better. But when they stay on a vegan diet, they'll eventually get sick. Paleo people, they get on a paleo diet, go, oh my gosh, I feel better. But now they're consuming too much protein. That can lead to problems. But we know that when you switch the diet, magic happens. I think Seyfried in that interview, Professor Seyfried said it best. He said, that's what we do for cancer patients. When we cause this shift, the body, the cells have to adapt. His point was great. Bad cells don't adapt. They don't have the ability to say, okay, now I'm just going to use fat for energy. So when we put someone from a cellular healing diet even and move them into ketosis where their cells can only use fat, bad cells can't make the shift. So what happens? They die off. It's called autophagy, right? The body eats up the bad cells. So it's these shifts in diet that force our cells to adapt. The bad ones don't. So whether it's, and by the way, folks listening, diet variation could be going, like I go into ketosis in the summer, in the winter, I go into the cellular healing diet. That's seasonal diet variation. I believe our ancestors were forced to do that, whether it was weather, things didn't grow at certain times, or just scarcity. They didn't have food, right? And we talked about the Hunzu people, the healthiest people on the planet. They were forced to make those changes. And scientists today believe it was the shift that forced them to adapt that actually causes them to live so healthy so long. So seasonal. We have what you said helped you, right? You said that, hey, I like to have that, carb day a week where, you eat higher carbs one day a week. That's diet variation. And I think females do really well with that, even so more so than males. So I did a fasting day yesterday. I fasted all day, 24 hours. So I ate dinner.
Just water.
I just, right, exactly. I just had water. So if I ate dinner the night before, and then I didn't eat till last night's dinner. I do that once a week. That's diet variation. And then like you, I'm not even in ketosis right now. However, one day a week, I eat more. So I typically don't eat breakfast. We're going to get there. That's called intermittent fasting. But one day a week I do. And I also take in more healthy carbohydrates. That's diet variation. So, you could do it daily. You could do it weekly. You could do it seasonally. Changing your diet, I believe, creates adaptation at the cellular level. The bad cells can't adapt, but the adaptation really works miracles in the body. It really does. So
I agree. Yeah. And I don't think it's an exact science either. So many people ask me like, well, what do you do and how does it work exactly? There's not an exact answer because you have to play around with it and find what works for you. But if you understand kind of the overarching principles, then, you can move forward and just kind of play around and see what fits into your life.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yep.
Awesome. All right, great. So, and then did you want to touch on burst training too for anti-aging before we move on?
Yeah, because that was one of the five, right? And burst training, high intensity training, is shown to, especially to living longer. It ages you less. Matter of fact, it helps you age slower. Whereas endurance athletes, especially ones that are just pounding the pavement and not recovering, which is very common, it ages you prematurely. So I always say, look, there's a place for endurance training. I love cycling. I love endurance training. I think I prefer it. And I'm naturally good at it. But I think that for weight loss and for making cells, hormone problems, be more sensitive to hormones, the cells being more sensitive to hormones, I think that high intensity training, aka burst training, is better for those things. So, I think that endurance training is good for certain things, but for weight loss, for hormone issues, high intensity training is better. So. And again,
awesome.
If you don't know what that is, we've written the articles about that. You can read it. So,
yep, check out the articles for sure. Awesome. All right, so that's number 7. All right, number 6. This most downloaded episode was episode number 2. Going back to your roots, heavy metal detox done right. Huge topic, and I know for you it's near and dear to your heart, and I'm sure for any of our viewers out there, they know all about your story and your challenges with mercury poisoning. But if you just kind of want to share a little bit about doing it right and why so many people do it wrong.
No, please read the article. This is a pet peeve of mine, as you know, because most people do it incorrectly. There's more bad information about heavy metal detox than any subject, I'm telling you. Simply put, is that you have the one group out here that's using the herbals that aren't true binders, right? Whether it's Chlorella, and by the way, I have nothing against any of these things, as Chlorella is a great superfood. It's just not going to get rid of heavy metals in your body. Cilantro, great, healthy, but it's not going to get rid of heavy metals in your brain. Matter of fact, arguably, it allows things to cross in and out. It's not a true binder. So the point I make in the article is, look, we have to use true binders. That's really what works. And of course, we've had the introduction of cyto detox as of lately. That's a true binder. It holds in a cage and does not let go until it is gone. Even when it's out of the body, it doesn't let go. That's how good that one is.
Wow.
There's DMSA we used. It's a true binder that we used in the past. Now, the FDA took it, and it's only script now, but it is a true binder, and when used correctly in its half-life, and all of these true binders have to be used correctly, otherwise you can create problems. So a lot of people are giving DMSA once or twice a day. That's heresy. That causes redistribution of heavy metals. So yeah, they used a true binder, but then they didn't use it correctly. Most people are just using binders that aren't real. That they're not true binders. And then we have the IV stuff that they put a true binder in all at once, it goes away, and now all of a sudden redistribution happens. And so yeah, this is a pet peeve of mine. I mean, true detox, again, we're getting there of what true detox is. It's really important to use true binders, but it's really important to use it right and in a system like True Cellular Detox.
Yeah, and it's a complicated process too. So that's why it's so important to be coached through proper heavy metal detox as well. A lot of people out there are doing it on their own, but that can really cause a lot of challenges because things can crop up and they don't really understand what's going on. So having a good coach to coach you through the proper process to really get results is going to be really, really important to do it safely and effectively.
Yeah, we've trained doctors around the country in this, and this is really where I started. This was my roots, right? I mean, I wasn't just because I was smart and read all this stuff. No, I learned this the hard way. I learned this because I went through it. And, I dove into this topic, for years and years. And having now taught many doctors around the country this process of true cellular detox and how to do heavy metals correctly, We've even refined it even more. We have tools now like Cellular Detox that I didn't have even getting my life back. But understanding that there's a preparatory phase, a body phase, and a brain phase, which is where the magic is. That's key. And then using true binders, right? But another issue I have majorly, people go to their doctor, right? I would have to pick on alternative doctors at this point. And they, I don't know how they determine whether they have a heavy metal issue, but they do. And then they give them a detox plan that lasts 3 months, 2 months, 6 months. And then they come back and they go, oh, you're clear of heavy metals. It's absurd. It's crazy, right? It's like how it took 20, 30 years to bioaccumulate there, right? How are you going to get rid of it in one 10-day cleanse or 1 month, 2 months? Even the True Cellular Detox program that we were developing, it's a 3-month program. But, the brain phase has to be repeated for people who have true heavy metal issues several times. It's like, it's kind of maddening. Yeah. But people buy into it. They go and go, oh yeah, well, I hear it all the time. It's like, no, but I already cleared my heavy metals. Oh, what did you do? Well, I did this herbal cleanse, how long did you do it for? I did it a long time. I think I did it for 2 or 3 months. It's like, okay. And then as soon as I say this, well, let me ask you something. How long have you had silver fillings in? Oh yeah. Well, how long have you been vaccinated? Okay. So how long would you say it took those metals to get in your brain? At least 30 years. Okay. Does it make sense that you just got it out of there in, 3 months? Oh yeah, that doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah. It doesn't, and it's not a quick fix, and I think it's hard for a lot of people to hear that, because when they're told that it can happen in such a short period of time, that's exciting, that they can get their life back sooner than later. But unfortunately, it is a process, and patience is so important. And I know for you, it was many years to really get results, and you reminded me the other day too, just patience with all the things that we work on, even on our road to health, and even when we're feeling good. When we want to get to optimal health, like I do, like there are just still things that you have to be patient with, and you have to stay the course, and you will eventually get results. And there's an emotional component to it as well. But patience is so key in this process, because it didn't happen overnight, and the results won't come overnight either. So really a reminder.
Well, Meredith, that's why we've trained doctors, like I said, around the country in this, and we do something very unique, all of us. When we're working with clients, our goal is to teach them this process, teach them a prep phase, a body phase, a brain phase, teach them, the process of True Cellular Detox, how to keep them moving, and we coach them for 8-9 months in this. Therefore, you can do and continue to do the process. That's the key, is doing this stuff long enough to actually get well. Nobody is going to get rid of chronic disease in a few months. It just doesn't happen. So therefore, if you're going for treatments to a doctor, it's not going to work. Chronic disease, you don't need more treatments. That works great in acute care. But with these chronic conditions, it is about learning. Doctor does mean teacher. And you need to be taught, coached through a process so you can continue it. That is the only way I got my life back. That's the only way that the hundreds and hundreds of clients that I've been blessed, to work with and bring them back to health, is teaching them. The body has the ability to heal. I don't heal. We have to remove the interference, and you need to be taught that process. And if you do, you'll get out. It's the only way out. So, I hope people heard that. That's it's a very unique method, that we're teaching, is to teach people, but it's the only thing that actually works.
Yeah, teaching them to fish. Yeah, awesome.
I love that. Yeah.
Thanks. Awesome. Well, great. Okay, so that was number 6. So next, number 5. This is the 5th most downloaded, and this is episode number 62. I think this is one of my episodes as well. Eating fat to lose fat.
Wow.
It is a big myth out there, and luckily, I think that the mainstream isn't getting it or isn't believing as much anymore that low fat is the way to go. But a lot of people out there are still low fat. What gives? Why are they still eating low fat food?
I just saw Matt Lauer this morning talking about low calorie, low fat meals. It's like it's still in vogue. I'm telling you, I don't know that we'll ever shake it, right? But the myth is, fat makes you fat. The truth is, fat doesn't make you fat. It is the body's inability to burn fat that makes you fat, right? So when you can't use this for energy, that's a cellular issue. So I always say that the inability to use fat, that is a cellular issue. More specifically, that's a hormone problem, a hormone not getting its message in the cell because the cell's inflamed. That is the problem. There's 3 reasons why toxins, maybe 4, toxins can drive the inability to burn your fat, right? In the toxins in the hypothalamus pituitary that run your thyroid, you need this thyroid and T3 to burn fat, right? So thyroid plays into it, the inability to lose weight. Your adrenals play into it. This controls both. So when you have particularly metals bioaccumulated there, yeah, losing fat becomes a problem. If you get into a moldy home, yeah, it blunts receptors in the hypothalamus, and now you can't even turn your own appetite off. You can't even burn fat for energy because you can't hear a hormone called leptin. So that's one way. Another way is toxins trigger obesity genes. So literally, toxins turn on genes that make us fat. So that's another way. Toxins also mess up the cell energy by damaging the mitochondria. We talked about that, right? So, they stick to the outer cell membrane and they keep the hormones that you need to hear to get in the cell from here. So toxins are driving more of this issue. It's fat doesn't make you fat. Arguably, we eat fat. I don't think I know anyone that eats more fat than you. So
I eat a lot of fat. I do. But it works for me, and it feels really, really good. And when I don't get enough fat, I don't feel satisfied, and I don't know. I need it now because I've shifted over from being a sugar burner to a fat burner, and it's just such a smooth, clean fuel for my body. And when I have enough, I'm just raring to go. It feels great.
I think that's the problem. I think that when people say, yeah, I'm eating fat, I'm not doing well. Well, maybe their liver and gallbladder are so toxic they're not breaking the fat down, which is a solution to that. True Cellular Detox being part of it. Taking some enzymes helping you break the fat down. But ultimately, I believe we need fat to actually get our cells used to burning fat. And one of the things is we know that when we eat fat, we start utilizing fat more and more. And therefore, when we're not eating, guess what your body uses for energy when you're not eating? It's fat. Its own fat store.
That's so fun. Burn your own fat for fuel.
Absolutely. We need fat to fix the cell membrane, which is how it communicates with the hormones, right? And we need fat as a really clean burning source. So eating fat, I believe, helps you actually burn fat. I believe you need fat to actually be an efficient fat burner for multiple reasons.
Yeah. And there's a quick point I wanted to make too, that I think maybe not everybody would do as well with the amount of fat that I consume for them. So because I got an email the other day, and I have a roommate, I have a friend too that doesn't have a gallbladder. So there are certain circumstances as well where you have to modify and you have to find the amount that works for you. Not everybody can follow a really high fat diet and have success. There's always going to be variation in that, just like with anything, like with the diet variation and the carbohydrate amounts and cycling with the ketogenic diet. There is going to be some variation, and you have to experiment. So, as far as the amount of fat goes, it's not a specific science either.
But by no means do not eat low fats.
Right.
Find that range, but by no means eat low fat. And every fat's different. Some people do better with medium chain triglycerides. But let me say this is a 180-degree solution, which I always say the truth with health always lies 180 degrees opposite of what we hear in the media, right? So, take it the opposite and somehow you hit it right every time. Saturated fat and cholesterol. I know you've heard of the most dangerous fats, right? I mean, if we polled not our audience, but the average audience, what are the 2 most dangerous fats? Saturated fat and cholesterol. It just so happens they are the most important to fixing that cell membrane and the hormone receptor that lies on the cell membrane. So, fat is really important. It doesn't make you fat.
Amen. And there's an article on this on drpompa.com, and then there's also a follow-up article on Eat Fat to Lose Fat recipes if you want some inspiration for healthy meals that are filled with really good quality fat. So check those out. All right, next we have the most downloaded episode, number 4. And this was episode 11, The Power of Intermittent Fasting.
Oh.
Wow, now this huge topic, we've talked about a lot. Fasting has an incredible power to heal the cells, to decrease inflammation, to reboot your immune system. Little overview, or why do you love fasting so much, Dr. Pompa?
No, I said this, I think, in the article that I wrote about it. I think it was in the strategy articles. We have the 5 strategies. Intermittent fasting is one of them. Diet variation is another. And I wrote in there that this was the most powerful thing that I've done for my health since I've been well. Right? After I got my life back, I went through True Cellular Detox. Proper heavy metal, got the metal out of my brain. Got my, that was. I always say I healed over a 7-year period. But after I functioned in good health, intermittent fasting has been the most powerful thing that I've noticed. I think, at my age, I'm 50, it did get a little harder to be as lean as I was in my 20s. When I started intermittent fasting, my body fat plummeted, and I actually put on and kept more muscle. So it was transformational for me, and even my energy levels. And again, intermittent fasting, guys, read the article, but there's daily intermittent fasting, and that's what I'm referring to right now, where I don't eat for 18, 20 hours after my dinner, and then I have a small meal sometime midday around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then I eat a big dinner. And I believe, Meredith, we see studies, and I'm doing some research right now on why this works and why people feel amazing. And I think especially the older you get, it's because of what it does to the hormones. I'm reading studies, again, a 2,000% increase in growth hormone rises in males, about 1,300% in females. And then I'm reading a lot of studies, and I grabbed them here. They're on my desktop, about what it does for testosterone levels and what it does for hormone optimization and sensitivity. And, it's remarkable. So not eating, and look, we know this too. That I'm not a fan of just pushing food away and caloric restriction diets. But when you intermittent fast and your cells become more and more sensitive to hormones, more efficient at burning fat, when I'm not eating during this time, I'm getting rid of bad cells, inflammation is down-regulating, hormones are going up, the good ones, right? The testosterone, the growth hormone, my body's healing. We know in all studies, people who eat less live longer. But you can't just push food away and say, I'm just gonna eat less. No, I eat less now because I'm not hungry. I'm simply not hungry. I fasted, like I said yesterday, all day. I wasn't hungry until I smelled food cooking at 6 o'clock at night. And then it's kicked in.
About that.
And again, I only do that once a week, but the point is, though, is your body gets so efficient at using its own fat during that time of not eating, and it gets rid of all the bad cells. Your glucose levels, my glucose levels all day, consistent. You live longer. You do. It's not my opinion. It's not my opinion. Every culture that has had successful health, they typically don't eat breakfast. On what we're told, another 180-degree concept, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Well, tell the rest of the world that, because they barely eat breakfast. It's called a continental breakfast if you've been to Europe. The Romans, the Greeks, they didn't eat breakfast. So I believe carrying a fast like that from dinner is a very powerful thing. And then we have block intermittent fasting, where we periodically do 4 days of whey water, 4 days of beef stock, or even just water. That's called a block intermittent fast. And we do those fasts periodically. We all do. That's diet variation too, by the way, going without food. The Hunzu people, they called it starvation spring. They would literally not eat because they just ran out of food and they didn't have time to harvest yet. The harvest wasn't even in yet. And they would go with very, very little food. But once again, these people lived long, disease-free, still do, because they changed their diet. Very vegetarian diet in the summer, all meat and fat during the winter, and then starvation spring. Diet variation, intermittent fasting, all of it's there.
Yeah, it is amazing. And I remember when I first joined the team and started with the company as well, I wanted to jump in, and I had been a little bit intimidated by fasting, as I think a lot of people are. They hear, oh my gosh, going without food, like, what am I going to do? But I jumped in, and I started with the 4-day Swero Gold probiotic whey water fast. And then I took on day 5 the Core Cellular package. And that was kind of my first intro into cellular healing and rebooting my body. And since then, I've done more Suero fasting. I've done the beef stock fasting. I do daily intermittent fasting most of the time. And it's made a huge impact on my life. And actually, one of my resolutions this year is to do a fast every single month for the whole year of 2016. And it might not be a 4-day fast necessarily. It might even just be a 2-day fast. But I wanted to get the benefits of a little bit more block fasting every single month this year. So that's something that I'm doing. And fasting has just been really, really incredible and made a huge impact in my life and on my health.
Wow, that's fantastic to hear. And it is such an amazing thing. We just had one of our doctors on our call on Tuesday. What was he? He was on day 13. 13 of all water, folks. He was doing a water fast. And we asked him, well, how has it been? He's like, yeah, I mean, the first couple days, were a little rough. He's like, now it's no problem. I feel great, And isn't that amazing what happens in fasting? And again, I want to encourage people to watch the episode with Professor Seyfried, because it's fasting, ketosis, these diet variations, restriction that they use to beat cancer, and it's not our opinion. This stuff, when you put it with True Cellular Detox, 5 R's, this works. It's not gimmick stuff. This really does work.
Yeah, it's ancient. It's proven. So yeah, it's amazing.
It's ancient healing. Yeah.
Ancient healing. All right, check that out and check out the article as well. All right, next episode number 3 of the top downloaded episodes is episode number 53, Regenerating the Cell Membrane. Kind of an interesting one. I was surprised that was number 3 on the top 10, Regenerating the Cell Membrane. Yeah. But obviously, as you know, and I think as Dr. Bruce Lipton has said, and you've spoken about him a lot on past shows, that he says all life begins on the cellular membrane. And can you explain that for us and why the cell membrane is such an important piece of the puzzle to fixing our cells and to getting our health on track?
I believe you booked Dr. Lipton on a future show. Amazing. I mean, he was an amazing stem cell biologist, wrote the book, The Biology of Belief. And in that book, he really proved, and now others have as well, that your thoughts, literally, and by the way, I want to do a future show on that. Maybe we can get Dr. Joe Dispenza on. We're going to have Bruce Lipton on. But your thoughts can actually drive cellular inflammation, or the opposite. How positive thoughts can actually heal cellular inflammation. And that's going to be a great show. But the point is this, in his work also, and in his book, Biology of Belief, he talks about it's the cell membrane that literally turns off the genes or turns good ones on. So it can turn bad ones off or good ones on. And his point is, if we don't fix the membrane, then really we can't change that DNA. But it is, I think it was his work and others now that they used to think that the intelligence of the cell was the nucleus, right? Where that's where your DNA is. So that's where the life is. That's where the intelligence is. Look, we know that's not true now. We can take out the nucleus of the cell, and the cell still lives on. It's still able to engulf food and run from invaders. I mean, the intelligence is not in the nucleus, therefore. Where is it? He proved, and now others, that it's in the cell membrane. This is where the intelligence is. Isn't that cool? That innate intelligence in our body that knows how to fight disease and pull in the perfect nutrients, turn on this gene, turn off that gene. The cell membrane. So R number 2 is you have to regenerate the cell membrane if you're going to detox a cell. Because the membrane is what allows the good stuff in, the bad stuff out. The membrane is what turns off the bad genes. So R number 2, regenerating the cell membrane, it should be one of the most downloaded shows because it's why you don't feel well. Honestly, it's why you're not detoxing. It's why your bad genes are turned on. Huge topic.
It is huge. And I know that you love the Vista 1 and 2 supplements for specifically targeting the cell membrane because they have that perfect ratio of omega-3 to 6 fatty acids to fix it. And just wanted to bring that up too. If you're interested in kind of really targeting the cell membrane and getting those good fats in, the Vista 1 and 2 supplements are an amazing product to do that.
Let me just say this, and I know we have to get to number 1. Everyone's excited for that, but I just said I had a really great conversation with a really smart, biochemist guy, and we're going to have him on the show, by the way. He said something that, he was talking about how important the omega-3 and omega-6 ratio is, and I came out of my seat because I'm like, I'd say that all the time, and he's saying, yeah, he believes that people are taking too much fish oil. I'm like, I said, this is exactly right. He says, yeah, but it's all about the balance. And people are throwing themselves out of balance and how it throws off homeostasis. So I said, oh my gosh, he was speaking my language, and he was talking about, the balance in so many things, and how important these ratios are. And I tell you, it was a great conversation. But yeah, people are taking too many, fish oils, dislodging cardiolipin, causing, dysfunction, really. So important. That's why I love the Vista product. It's balanced. It really is designed to target the cell membrane.
How would you know if you're omega-3 dominant?
Yeah, I think that there's no way of knowing except like in autistic children, they start in the beginning when they take fish oil, there's always an improvement. And I would say that's because they're omega-6 dominant. But then in autistic children, then we start to see an increase in stimming. But because the fish oil helped in the beginning, we don't realize it. We think it's something else. I would say someone takes fish oil in the beginning and it helps their pain. But all of a sudden now their pain's back. And then they're starting to create some other new symptoms. And like I said, autistic child will start stimming more. Maybe you start getting more pain or brain fog. That could be a sign, of even fatigue of omega-3 dominance. So, yeah, it's a tough one. That's why I always tell people if you're going to take fish oil, number one, make sure it's not rancid, because most is, right? Take a good one. Take it randomly, just like you would eat fish. Don't take it all the time. I think that's where people get into trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially healthier people that eat grass-fed and do all this stuff. They're the ones that when they're taking fish oil can actually get into trouble faster.
Yeah, makes sense. Just like any supplement, you want to be cycling things and incorporating it like you would in a diet. So love that. Great. All right. Getting close to number 1, but number 2 most downloaded episode was episode 26, adrenal fatigue and the endocrine system. Huge topic today. A lot of people are suffering with adrenal fatigue. What's going on?
Listen, I knew that this would be in there too, because, everybody, when they get challenged, it eventually they go to their regular doctor. Of course, that goes south, right? They end up going, okay, that didn't help. Then they end up at an alternative doctor, and the diagnosis is always, you have adrenal fatigue. Oh, of course you do. It's like, because every neurotoxic condition, every condition, the adrenals are just whipped down, right? So, but I think the mistake is that people think that that's their problem, that it's just my adrenals. So if I can fix my adrenals, I was one of those people. I'm talking out of experience. Okay, I have adrenal fatigue, I fix my adrenals. And I would realize that when I did that, okay, my energy was better, but now my anxiety and sleep was worse, or this happened and that. It's a downstream whipping boy to an upstream greater problem, whether it's chronic stress of any kind, physical, chemical, or emotional, will zap the adrenals. So yes, athletes who are training too hard, not recovering, yeah, you get adrenal exhaustion, change it, adapt better, train less, do something. But here's the big one. Most people are chronically chemically toxic, chemically stressed, which just eventually just crushes the adrenals. By fixing the adrenals, you don't go upstream and get rid of the toxin. Of course, emotional stress can do it too. But again, fixing the adrenals doesn't get rid of the emotional stress. It's typically the perfect storm that the adrenals are downstream going, help, but you can't get well just by fixing your adrenals. You have to take away the stressors.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge topic, and it's really common. A lot of people now, it's such a buzzword, adrenal fatigue these days, but a lot of people, once again, don't have the answer of getting to the source and are just slapping supplements at it, maybe trying to rest more, but not really getting to the source of the problem to get results and to solve it ultimately.
And I'm not saying you don't address the adrenals. And I think in the article or in that episode, we give them some natural ways to do that, and we talk about that. But, it really, though, it's just a crutch while you're getting upstream. And so many people, I am helping their adrenals. And oftentimes we use a product called Calm or Cerephos to help rest the adrenal at a certain time of the day. And then we are also using something like GA Adrenal to give the adrenal some life in the day. Sodium, sea salt is magic. Electrolytes are magic for the adrenals, giving them some support. So is methylation, B vitamins. So, some simple things like that we talk about in the episode. So, but get upstream.
Yeah, get upstream. Awesome. And check out the article too on drpompa.com. And that's a more recent article on adrenal fatigue. So check that out. All right, without further ado, drum roll. We got this here. Yep. Episode number 1, the most downloaded episode was, no surprise here, episode number 48, True Cellular Detox. Now, I know this is the heart of your mission and of what you went through. Dr. Pompa has brought you to this conclusion and to this process and method and system that you've put into place to change so many people's lives, called True Cellular Detox. There's 3 components, there's 3 phases. There's an article on it, but what do you want to say about it?
Thank God it's number 1. Honestly, if it wasn't, I would have been like, have I failed? The fact that it's number 1,
Yep.
ta-da, I feel like, Meredith, we've done something,
Yes, such an educated following, because it's literally like, this is the true number 1 episode. We didn't change these. This is number 1. So you guys have been out listening to the message and you're getting it. So
thank God it's number 1, because first of all, it leads to a lot of other good articles, but it should be number 1, because this is why you still don't feel well, folks. This is why you're eating the perfect diet and taking all these good things and you still don't have the energy, or you still have brain fog, you're not sleeping enough. It's detox, but True Cellular Detox, it handles all the pet peeves. You said it. It's 3 components. It's 3 phases. That's what real detox is, but it goes up to the cell. In the article, in the episode, we talked about, we love coffee enemas. We love far infrared saunas. We love a lot of things, but they're downstream to what real detox is, and that has to get to the cell. If you want to get well, you have to fix the cell, but more specifically, if you want to get well, you have to detox the cell. And you start here. Yes, we want to keep these downstream detox pathways open. Far infrared saunas can open up the skin. There's no doubt coffee enemas can push stuff out of the liver and catch it in the gut, so the liver's not stopping up. No doubt there's great stuff out there, right? But again, downstream for where real detox has to be. If we can't get that cell detoxing naturally, then what good is a colon cleanse? What good is a coffee enema? Because the cell's not doing what it should be doing. And again, that's where the 5 R's come in as the first component. Fix the cell, get the cell doing what it should be doing. The second component is really getting these downstream detox pathways, protected, working, keep those open. And the third one is using true binders, and we talked a little bit about that. But, read the article. We have trained great doctors around the country, practitioners around the country, about True Cellular Detox. And this is why, we are seeing results that other people aren't. You get upstream, you get to why people don't feel well. It has to go to the cell. This is the passion. Most of you watching this that have, more severe health challenges, you need a coach, to teach you this process. There's a lot of nuances in it. There's a lot of things that dosing, but the process itself, that's such a simple concept, that works. It's the real deal. But again, I think that most people watching it, they'll hire a golf coach, but you're struggling, you need a coach. I always say, Meredith, if I got sick again myself, I might hire you. I might hire one of the doctors. You can't think through your own stuff, right? You need
not when you're sick and you're not well, your brain isn't functioning properly. You need someone with that expertise to really zero in on what's really causing the problem.
Yeah, exactly. You can't, you're making emotional decisions, and it just doesn't work. But I always, if people can really learn this process, it's the way out. It really is.
It is. It's such a powerful message, and kudos to you guys for ranking that as number 1, because it really is. It's the message, and because it all boils down to that. And if you don't fix the cell, you won't get well. So, guys, well, what an awesome list that by popular demand, you guys created this list. So thank you for watching, for spreading this message to your friends and liking it on Facebook and sharing this on YouTube and subscribing, because we wouldn't be here without you. We are so, so grateful. We have such an incredible army out there of people that are supporting this mission and this philosophy, and so, so grateful for you. So thank you so much for watching.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And spread the word, because, you know, Meredith, what we teach, it's truth. It's not necessarily always easy. We don't say, hey, take this one pill. This is the miracle pill. You know, our message stands 180 degrees of most of what's in the alternative world of health, let alone what's in the, you know, the other allopathic world, if you will. You know, but we will always stand for the truth. We're always going to continue to try to bring you all the truth. We're going to, if we feel there's an expert in an area that you need to hear from, we're going to bring it. But look, you put True Cellular Detox with these ancient strategies that we talk about together, changes lives. So keep bringing it, keep sharing it. Thanks, Meredith.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Pompa, and thank you for watching. And we love your feedback. So write in, send us emails, write on Facebook, share your feedback with us about who you want us to bring on the show, what questions or topics you'd like to have addressed. And we'd love to hear from you guys. So thank you so much for watching. Next week, episode 101, we have on detoxing your life. So the top 5 toxins under your roof and under your nose that are impacting your health.
That's a big one. That's a big show. Y'all better tune in and tell your friends too. That's a huge show. It really is. So, all right. Thanks,
awesome. We just had an article released on that as well. So check out the article and tune in next week. And thanks for everything. We love you guys, and we'll see you next time.